Okay, so we are doing the numerology and the astrology for April 4th, 2020. I'm just going to say on the video that somebody was asking about past life meditations and things like this, and some of the meditations that I have done on YouTube. So on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, I do have an inner guide meditation. And then I have a Wild Woman series meditation, part 1 for women and part 2 for women, which is kind of fun. Somewhere I do have a chakra meditation, though I can't find it at the moment. But those names should get you to where you need to get to. And, doing meditations and doing guided visualizations is a great thing to be doing right now because we've got the time. And because I'm telling stories, and one of the stories today in my blog is about having sort of an interesting past life part come to the surface, it kind of brought that conversation up. So as a result, there are some options out there. There's lots of options out there. There are more options than what I have put out on Facebook. You might want to check out all these different kinds of things. I hope everybody is staying in and still safe and trying not to panic about the money systems and the stock market and all that kind of stuff. So we are in one of these tricky places where we have to keep breathing and we have to kind of just keep moving forward. And so this is my little way of giving back to the universe at a time when everybody is feeling really tight financially and they maybe need a little bit of moral support and a little bit of information, because I know that one of the reasons that I love astrology and numerology and tarot and palmistry and channeling is that they all look at information from a slightly different angle. And so you get different viewpoints of a similar moment in time. And I find for myself, the reason I'm kind of a sacred tool keeper, and I have played with all these tools my whole entire life, and there's way more than that, but is because I found the more information I had, the less my mind would freak out. Because if I could understand something, I could actually calm down and I could feel like I could either have a strategy about it or I could go into a place of acceptance and surrender because I kind of see the bigger picture in that moment. So I just throw that out there that, it's fun to kind of explore at this moment all of the cool metaphysical tools and possibilities. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to this. And I'm glad that it's giving back in just a small way because I know everybody is really tight on the financial level. So, okay. If you add April 4th, 2020 together, you actually get a 12. If you add the 1 and the 2 together, you get a 3. In the yogic numerology system, you always make the numbers smaller than from 11 smaller. So if it's a 12, 13, 14, 15, 29, 56, 72, you basically add those two numbers together in order to get the number. So things in this world are not going to allow this present roller coaster to stop. So the number 3 is called the roller coaster. It's called the number of positive mind. Things go up and down and all around and it feels kind of crazy. But what I find is it goes up and you hit a peak and you're feeling pretty good. I'm sure everybody's noticed that I'm like, oh, I'm not so bad. I'm feeling pretty good. And then it drops a little bit and you're like, oh shit, I don't feel so good now. And then it goes up again and then it's a little higher than it was before, but then it drops again and it kind of goes like this. So the curve is like this going up. So I remind you of that because we're in one of those days where you're going to feel this roller coaster. And I like to think of it as a duck on the water. So the duck goes up on the wave, goes down on the wave, goes up on the wave. Same thing as a bird in the air. It's like, oh, catch the thermal, go up, drop the thermal, go down. So we're just kind of cruising. I want us to think of it as that we're cruising along on this 3 and we're seeking positive mind. We're seeking what is wonderful and good and fabulous in this moment. And I think that this number is interesting because it's called devil and divine, which means that within all of us is that duality. And so we have a really good side and then we have this it's not a less good side. It's more like a side that has fear or constricts a little bit or has concerns or wants to loop on an idea in its head. So This day is one of these days that the roller coaster is going to kind of run wild, and know that these things eventually stop, but it's going to take months. Remember to smile at those you even see behind that mask. So people are going to be putting on this face of fear or this face of joy, and just somehow try to stay positive. So I'm sitting here looking at this, and so I'm doing this video, and here's the spider right here. Now, I don't kill spiders, by the way, because the spider is the rider in Indian medicine. And spider is about words, and so I'm using words and helping everybody understand words. And so here's the goddess right here, actually trying to get my attention. So maybe I'm supposed to be doing more writing today because of this. That's a possibility. I will definitely look at that. Or maybe there's some sort of specific words that I'm supposed to be saying. For some reason, because I'm seeing the spider, it reminds me of when I was doing the Wild Women Symposium, which was an event for hundreds of women, and they got to pick different classes and facilitators that they wanted to work with and try different things and open up into the categories of love, life, and light. And it was awesome. We had a great time. I lost a ton of money doing this because it was my gift of spirit. I've done that a lot in my life. I've had these fantastic ideas that I think that would take off and everybody would totally love, and they are transformational for the people who go there. And I always say whoever is supposed to be there is supposed to be there, and whoever's not is not. And so I don't really believe in enrollment. I'm like not trying to enroll people and having a session with me or anything like that. I'm one of these people that I just feel like I want to share what I know. And so I did the Wild Women Symposium for about 3 years, I guess, 3.5 years, something like that. And it was amazing. But at the very first Wild Women Symposium, we were pulling things out of boxes, and they had been in somebody's garage. And as we opened up this one box, here's this gigantic black widow spider, and all the women freak out. And I'm like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. This is so awesome. This is an incredible omen. This is amazing. Like, the goddess is actually come to help us with our event. And so I very carefully and gingerly don't upset the black widow spider, and I get her outside and I put her in a beautiful tree. And everybody was just sort of stunned, that I wasn't freaking out. And I'm like, in life, everything in life has a good and a bad. The black widow spider is absolutely gorgeous, and it has an amazing web, but she tends to eat her mate. And she's got a nasty bite if you piss her off, right? And so life is full of these contradictions. I mean, something is just not purely perfect. I mean, we're in duality, so there's always these goods and bads. And so I want to point that out because I think everybody is noticing the bad, and I'm not trying to be a light polarized fluff puppy metaphysical person, because everybody needs to seriously consider the bad side and look at their own shadow and all of this. But also we need to have that balance of the light, and the light inside of us and the light inside of life. So, my husband gets frustrated because I'm feeding all these birds. And so I'm feeding these birds, and I have these beautiful little red birds that are just amazing out here. And so they're so sweet, and they have this beautiful song. And then the banded pigeons come in. And so the banded pigeons come in like this, like a gang. I mean, it's sort of like a gang, and they like push everybody off, and they like swarm in, and then they eat all the seeds, and then they go away. And my husband gets so irritated with him. He says, they're just obnoxious. And I'm like, well, banded pigeons at this point in time are struggling too. And just because you don't like a bird doesn't mean it doesn't deserve seeds also, right? So, so I have this different perspective about it. And so I have this quality inside of me that just, wants to nurture and wants to give back in some way, shape, and form. And so, yes, I know that bird poop ends up everywhere. And yes, I know that I love watching the birds be happy and sing their songs. And, it's both. It's always both. Like, if I'm going to feed the birds, I'm going to have to deal with the bird poop. I mean, it's just one of those things in life that you have to address and cope with. There you go. So the number 3, keep a smile on your face. Try to smile back at other people. I know some of you are wearing masks. Yay. I'm super happy you're wearing masks. But your eyes can still smile. Your head can still nod. Just because they can't see your mouth does not mean they can't feel your love. So today, let's share the love. So that's what I'm trying to do with these videos is share the love. Okay, astrology for April 4th. Okay, Saturday is the first of 3 conjunctions between Jupiter and Pluto. There will be 2 more in June and November. Jupiter loves to expand things. It's the planet of expansion, money, love, and abundance. And I couldn't help but notice that the coronavirus has done an unfortunately really good job at expanding under this astrology to very large levels. And yet that expands our awareness. We have to pay attention. Like when something gets so big, it forces us to address and look at something we don't want to look at. Personally, this alignment urges you to open up your belief system to levels of awareness that you have not previously attained. Pluto, however, is the planet of death, rebirth, transformation, and change. And Pluto is a planet that likes to cleanse anything that gets between you and the divine and removes things that take your power away or drain your power. And specifically issues such as fear, lack of self-worth, anger, resentment, such things as that. Because those things prevent us from stepping into our power. I always say if the dark energies can cause you to contract and not step into your magnificence and see your beauty and light and love in your heart and not let your heart be expressed, then they win. So, but it's a catch-22, like you can't get full of yourself either. You have to stay really humble and really authentic also. So this configuration between Jupiter and Pluto intends to help you pull yourself out of a dense place of consciousness and into a higher vibration. So that's good. I believe this chronic disowned fear and anger co-contributes to this virus and the pandemic we're in. Now, I want to be specific. I don't think this astrology causes the pandemic. I think that this anger and fear and resentment that we're holding on the inside, that we've been holding for years, contributes to large external global events that create a trend that then causes a change. Is that specific enough? So now the moon moves into Virgo mid-afternoon. So keep it simple, eat healthy, go ahead, clean something else. It's like clean all these things out one way or the other. Analyze your actions and choices. Remember that you should not be socializing, and the moon in Virgo wants to socialize really badly, but don't do it. Just don't do it. Venus trine Saturn helps you be thorough and precise. Loyalty and sincerity are sought after and highly valued. The greatest thing you can become in this life is a decent person. We're all trying to find that simplicity at this moment inside, and it's not a failure or a lack of drive to have a simple life. Simplicity is about being at peace with yourself and not needing things to define your value. The moon squares Venus. Instinct is important under this aspect, so be aware of your mate and those in your family that are also feeling the stress. Be kind, be comforting, realize that we are all feeling unimaginable fear and potential loss. It never hurts to be compassionate to your fellow travelers in the trenches. Okay, so we're kind of in the trenches with each other at this point. And, you're at that trench over there, and I can't get out of my trench to go talk to you or say hello. I can wave at you from a distance, but I can't go over there because I could get hit with a bomb or mustard gas or something like that. So we're kind of in the trenches, and we want to love each other, and we want to smile at each other, and we want to be kind to each other, and we want to socialize it, but we can pick up the phone and call people, and that's going to have to be enough right now. Okay, my quote for the day. Anxiety is about fear for the future based on the projections of the mind. Allowing fears to fester and grow will only drain your reserves and strength. Remember that fears are only real if you give them enough energy to manifest fully. That is why self-control and self-discipline are essential to maintaining clarity moving forward. And I think that's what's happening, that we're learning self-control. We're learning self-discipline. I think it's really hard when we are in a society that's been very externalized and it's all about what you do out in the world rather than who you are on the inside. I always find it interesting when people ask me to, they want to know a past life. And I always say, well, which one? Like most happy, most karmic, most money, most fame, most, like what most children, most love, what do you want? And so, they oftentimes say, the one where I felt the most peaceful, the most loved. And it's always amazing how the images that end up surfacing are actually very simple lives. They're, farming lives. They're Scottish Highland lives. They're lives where you're in the rhythms of nature. You're at one with the rhythms of nature. You are not striving to be famous or something like that. You're actually striving to survive. You're paying attention to everything that's happening in your world and knowing that you have to plan and you have to strategize and you have to structure and you have to make sure you have enough food for the winter. And, it's a simple life. It's an uncomplicated life. And that's what we're getting in this moment, is to have a simple life and an uncomplicated life. When I hosted the Buddhist lamas from Bhutan, they were so happy with just rice and hot sauce. I mean, they were completely happy with rice and hot sauce, and I want to make them these amazing meals, and they're like, no, just rice. And I'm like, wow, it's like, it's the simple things that are so interesting, that give us back so much because they're calming and they're peaceful. So this is a gift. If we look at this moment, it's a gift if we just don't let ourselves panic, which is really tricky to do right now. All right. So my blog for today. I think that at this time in the world, sharing stories about our lives might be enlightening and interesting, which is why I've been sharing some things even at the beginning of this video. I have learned so much from stories that other people told me, and some have been instrumental in helping me in critical moments to make choices and to say things that made difficult situations less frightening. It's almost like they told me the story, and then 5 years later, I'm in a similar situation, and instead of freezing and not knowing what to do, I have their story in my head. And so I basically mimic the story or modify the story or, utilize the information from the story to not panic. And so stories, as we share stories with others, we get those as a reference point on the inside. And we can feel that when the story is valid and true for us, it's something that sticks. And if it's a story you don't need, you won't remember it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But those stories that have great impact are something we can utilize oftentimes later. Sometimes we just need a few maps from others that have walked a similar path to help us out. Life is always going to present obstacles that are often not anticipated, and that is why having stories that will give you options so you can make a good choice in an essential moment instead of a reactive one becomes so important. So my story today comes from when I think it was probably about 2001, when I was working in Los Angeles. I had an agent in Hollywood that had been the son of a famous actor. His father had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So Hollywood goes late. So, the clubs go until 2 a.m, and then there's after hour parties that go until 6 a.m. And so, literally parties can go on all night long. So this was a different experience for me because I am sort of like the woman that goes to bed at like 9:30. So anyway, it was a major shift for me. And we all decided late, really early morning, but late to go to see this star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It was like, oh, this is cool. Let's go look at this star. Well, let's just say being in that section of Hollywood at that hour was probably not the wisest thing I have ever done. But there we were, looking at it, and when some potential drug deal went south, and a man started running down the street being chased by a dark SUV with a sunroof, and a man was standing out the top of the sunroof and shooting at the guy who was running frantically away. So, scary moment, right? So, while my friends literally dove behind vehicles that were right there, something really different happened to me. I felt something within my core come out, awaken, and literally step into my face. I felt myself become a man. I felt my face literally change. I became a man with dark, long, loose hair. I felt my skin become leathery and darker. My eyes went dark brown. My face became scarred. One eye seemed to not have vision out of it from an old wound such as a sword. My clothing became loose-fitting and adjustable like a horseman or rider. I felt like I had become a very skilled warrior, one that knew how to size up a dangerous situation. And so he's in my body looking out my face, and he looked at the event unfolding, and he said to me very calmly, "This is not really dangerous. This guy is just making a point and acting tough. He has no intention of really harming anybody. He just wants to scare the guy." And then the man with the gun in the car drove literally right past me, and he kept firing the gun, but it was really kind of random, and he looked me right in the eyes as he went past me while firing the gun. And I was not afraid. I could see in his eyes humor. It was a game. There was no threat to me or my friends, and he kept shooting as he passed me by. My friends came out from behind the vehicles that they had hidden behind, and they were shocked at how calm and collected I was. They were terrified, and I was not. They asked me, "How did you know that guy was not going to shoot you?" I told them that somewhere inside of me was a powerful, strong Mongolian warrior that sized up the situation and knew that this shooter was just playing a game of power and wanting to frighten the guy. That I was not a target or a threat to him, and neither were any of them, and they were stunned at my answer. There have been a few times in my life where I was in a life and death situation that was extremely dangerous, and repeatedly I have felt this warrior within come out and size up the situation. Tell me what was happening and what to do. And I have always been safe. I have never been afraid. I have always felt strangely protected, like I was in a bubble. I believe within each of us, there are many past life parts that have great wisdom to share with us. Some need to be loved and fully accepted in order for them to share their wisdom at such critical moments. I know as a child, I learned to love this warrior part of myself fully. I remember the moment that I did embrace that warrior self, and he has repeatedly saved my life again and again. I actually adore him, and I appreciate his power, clarity, fearlessness, and strength. That is why no part of yourself can be left behind. All past life parts carry great wisdom and clarity in the right situation. Even a past warrior self is of great value in times of danger and conflict. So that's why I mentioned the meditations that are out there that are past life meditations. I think that we are all trying to become whole. And I think to be whole, you have to know who you are, and that means all of who you are and all of who you've been in a past life. And I think that we have to integrate those parts constructively. So obviously my warrior part does not need to be out 24/7. But if I'm in a dangerous situation, he will definitely come out. And that's always really interesting, I think, that he's there. I mean, I remember I had some friends of mine, and, I was born and raised in Texas. And so in Texas, there is a law in Texas that if somebody's on your property, you can legally shoot them and you won't go to jail. And my father had a lot of guns, and he was a hunter. And, you can't have a lot of guns in a house with children without children knowing how to shoot the guns. And so we were all trained in how to shoot the gun and how to make the guns work and what was on and if if it was loaded or not loaded and how to unload it. And so there's a part of me that is very, very, very comfortable around guns. And so I think there's a calmness that happens if you're in a dangerous situation. And I've been with some of my friends, some male friends, when something really dangerous has happened. And one of the times was actually when I was in South America, and this whole craziness went off and guns were going off, and it was crazy. And I had all these women, and I was trying to get these women from one side to another side. And, I just, that warrior came out of my face. And, I literally stood in the middle of the street and I said, stop. I've got these American women. We've got to get to the other side. Please stop. Right. And they stopped. And so I got the women through, and the police are on the other side not doing anything. And, I looked at the police officer like, back up, and he backed up. And he moved his horse and backed up. And as soon as we were past, they started shooting at each other again. And the male friends that were there, they were like, you're really scary. And I'm like, I am. And they were like, yeah, no, you get this authoritative way. Like, I would never fuck with you. Like, if you were pissed off, I would never fuck with you. And I was like, that's probably a good thing. Because there is this warrior in me that is just like, enough is enough. And I'm a retired ballet dancer, so I've got a tremendous amount of physical strength. And I've exercised my whole life. And so there's this intensity that I have, when pushed, that is available to me. And I say that because I believe in everybody. They have that. They just don't know where it is. And I think that it's in challenging moments like this that we have to pull parts of ourselves up that we've not had available to us before. And so we've learned how to get organized. We've with all this food and not being able to go to the grocery store, you have to really think it through and get organized. And it's so cool because I can actually feel my grandmothers around me that are saying, well, you could actually make this, and you could take the leftovers from that last night and you could put that with this, and you could actually make this great meal. And it's like, oh, that's a great idea. So I believe we're not alone in this. I believe we have our ancestors, our guides, our past life selves. I believe that there are a lot of things we can tap into right here, and you're not really alone. And so why not do some meditations and try and retrieve some of these parts that might be of great help at this particular time and might help you calm down too. I always like to think of it as my ancestors have probably weathered way, way worse times than this. They probably weathered bubonic plagues where their entire family was killed except them. They've probably gone through terrible famines, and they know how to do it. They have the skills to do it. And that information is recorded in our DNA. It actually is in there. They actually say an experience in your DNA actually lasts for 16 generations. So, sometimes I think, is past life stuff, or is it memory of your genetic lineage? And I think both could be true. So just kind of know you are not alone. You have resources in there that you can work with. And yes, you do have to learn to tap into them, but there are some great tools on the internet and on YouTube that you can try and find what you like. So once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning into the channel. I hope it was fun and entertaining for you today, and I hope it maybe put a little smile on your face, or a laugh and a little brightness in your step. Okay,